Welcome, fellow night owls, to a realm where the eerie and the inexplicable converge. I'm your host Don Choco, and tonight, we embark on a digital journey into the chilling tales of Reddit's darkest corners. Prepare to be captivated by stories that defy explanation, where everyday Redditors share their encounters with the supernatural, the bizarre, and the downright terrifying. Knock, knock. I'm renting a studio apartment in the big city while I have an internship. It's in an old building with one other apartment, and we both share a hallway with a locked door to the outside world at the end of it. When I first got here, I arrived pretty late, so the landlord left a key for me in the letterbox and texted me the combination. The next day, when I came home from work, the key wouldn't work in the lock anymore. I was pretty puzzled, since it had worked perfectly before, so I called a locksmith to see if he could let me in. He told me the lock had failed, and it would have to be replaced completely, including with a new key. It cost me $300 all up, but I was tired and hungry and glad to be back inside, and I thought I could show the receipt to the landlord and be reimbursed. Being the absent-minded person I am, every time I got home late from work I would see the receipt on the table and think, "That's right, I need to tell the landlord, and give them the new key." But I never got around to it. Then, a few weeks ago, I was lying in bed watching TV on a low volume before I fell asleep. I was just starting to doze off when I heard a sound that jerked me awake. The sound of a key being inserted into my door. I immediately jerked up in bed and gathered the covers around me, going through the list of people in my head who it might be. Not my parents, they're 5 hours away. Not a friend, none of them know this address. And besides, how would they get into the secure hallway? Aside from me, the only person with a key was the landlord. And why the fuck would he let himself in unannounced at midnight? While I was sleeping? In the nude, I sat there frozen, staring at the door in horror and waiting for it to open, except it didn't. I changed the locks. As I sat there paralyzed with fear, that fact slowly sank in. I changed the fucking lock when I moved in. They couldn't get in, because the lock screwed up and I was too flaky to tell anyone about it. I slipped out of bed and pulled on my work clothes, then kind of just stood there in the middle of the room, with my phone in my hand, waiting for them to leave. I was way too scared to breathe too loud or even turn off the TV, in case they realized someone was inside. My door doesn't have a peephole, but even if it did, I probably would have been too much of a coward to cross my room and stand that close to it. I felt like I was having a mini heart attack. The lock was audibly being manipulated at this point. Whoever was on the other side was loudly jiggling the key and shaking the knob, and I heard the door creak as though someone was leaning on it. I was still ready to crap my pants, but my mind bizarrely wandered to how I would tell my parents about this. I clearly imagined my mum saying, "Well, did you tell them to go away?" and making up an excuse that it was just someone lost, or they got the wrong apartment. It sounds ridiculous, but I needed to prove that I wasn't an irrational person. I needed to prove that this wasn't just some silly mistake I was blowing out of proportion. So I cleared my throat and let out a feeble "Hello?" The shaking stopped immediately. This was almost worse than the noise from before. Every muscle in my body tensed listening for a sound, and I quickly decided to turn off my TV, since they already knew I was here. Then it was just me, the silence, and my mind working in overtime to try to explain who the hell this person was, until they knocked on the door. I stood dead still in the middle of the room, but my stomach gave an involuntary jolt at the sound. He knocked again. A muffled voice came through the door, and it creaked again, like someone was leaning on it.
"Hey, let me in."
This might be the part of the horror movie where the dumb girl opens the door, just to satisfy her curiosity. But every cell in my body simultaneously screamed, "Oh, hell nah." I decided I would continue with my currently plan, to stand tense and frozen in the middle of the room. Except I backed towards the kitchenette and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. In the absence of my response, knock became a loud bang. First it sounded like someone was insistently pounding their closed fists on the door, but soon the whole door frame and walls shook from the impact. I realized the person was throwing their body weight against it. At this point, I called the police. I can't even remember what I said to them. I was so filled with white-hot panic. I was later told I screamed "Hurry, send everyone," which is a bit embarrassing. I had trouble remembering my address, but luckily it was still on the locksmith receipt still sitting on the table. I owe that fucking guy a beer. When I was talking to the operator, she said she could hear the guy trying to get in, and I should lock myself in the bathroom if I could. I guess he overheard me on the phone, because the banging abruptly stopped. Suddenly I was in the Jaws situation again, where the shark is gone but you know it's just under the water. I held onto the knife so tightly that my nails made a mark in the palm of my hand where they wrapped around it, and I kept asking the operator, "What if he comes back?" Luckily I didn't have to worry about that. The next people to knock on my door were the cops. They were able to get into a hallway because someone left the shared access door wide open. Of course the perpetrator was long gone. I still don't know who knocked on my door that night, and I'm not sure I want to know. My New Year's resolution was to stop putting things off, but now I know that good things come to those who wait, to talk about their new key. Scary clown in woods. I have been debating on posting this. Not because I have been scared, but simply because this is my first post since joining. Please forgive my writing as sometimes my wording and punctuation could be better. I'll start off by explaining the area so you can get a good picture of where this occurred. We lived in a small neighborhood. All of the surrounding streets dead end into a half-circle park. Behind the park are some woods and a railroad track. When we were younger, we all played in the front part of the woods. We never ventured too far back. This was our play area for years. Never had an issue or scare. This area was a pretty and well-lit wooded area. Anyhow, one day my brother Jimmy, my best friend Sarah, and my brother's best friend Ian were all building a dam in the middle of the small creek that ran through the park and the woods. The boys decided they were going to head back to Ian's house for some snacks. Sarah and I said we would stay and finish our camp area. As we are moving rocks around, I get a very odd feeling come over me. A strange feeling that we are being watched. I immediately think it's the boys trying to scare us and just continue with what we are doing. Sarah and I load up some big rocks and head back to the creek and put them down at the dam. I get that feeling again, and as I stand up I see something straight in front of me about 30 feet away. I can't clearly make out what it is yet because it is behind a bush, but I do see that it is a pattern of red and blue. I know that's nothing the boys had on, so at this point I am focusing trying to figure out what it is. As I am scanning up the bush, I start to realize it is a clown. I shit you not, my heart started pounding immediately. The clown and my eyes lock. He is wearing a blue/red hat with a reverse pattern red/blue jumpsuit. I grab Sarah's shirt and immediately pull her upright, and she notices the man right away. He is smiling with a full face of makeup and has a huge knife. We both say nothing and start running as fast as our legs can take us. He begins to follow. We can hear twigs snapping and ground crunching, but we are booking it. We run through the front of the woods, through the side of the park, and up her dead-end street. Ian and Jimmy are 2 houses up from the end and see us running and are screaming what is going on. While running past, we scream a clown and they start laughing. We are still running, screaming for our lives, and finally make it to the middle of the street where Sarah's dad, Danny, is now running out the front door because he hears us screaming. We meet Danny right at the beginning of the neighbor's house, and we are trying to explain what we've seen, and he says, "Girls, stop it now. This is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" We try to catch our breath. By this time, Jimmy and Ian have caught up to us. We are crying and pointing and telling Danny again that we've seen a clown and knife. Jimmy and Ian are laughing, and Danny is asking if they played a prank on us. About this time, an old yellow Pinto type of car comes from the dead end at the park and pulls right up next to the sidewalk of the yard we are in. Sure enough, plain as day, it's the fucking clown. No hat this time, but knife in hand and telling us to come here. Danny starts shoving us all toward the house, and he himself is scared and running now. The car drives off down the street. We get inside and Danny calls the police. We had to give statements and police patrolled the neighborhood and the park for a few weeks. We were never allowed to go in the park again, and a few months after that the city started to clear out the woods. Cut down many trees and made a walking area that you could see through all the way to the train tracks. My friend and I used to talk about this many times up until her death. No one would believe us had they not seen it as well. It was just so scary. I think they only got to see him because whoever it was had to go down the dead-end street to leave the neighborhood. Either way, this man was not afraid of us, nor the small group of people that gathered from our screaming. He very bravely stopped right in front of us, as her father tried to comfort us and calm us down, all while flashing his knife. We are lucky to be alive, I feel. Had it just been one of us left in the woods, which sometimes occurred, I don't think there would have been a group of 4 of us any longer. Sarah's dad stopped drinking that day. We all have a fear of clowns. A midnight stroll. One night, unable to sleep, I mindlessly scrolled through TikTok, hoping to find something that would distract me from my restlessness. Among the countless TikTok live streams, one particular stream caught my attention. The title simply read, "A Midnight Stroll." Intrigued, I tapped on it, unknowingly opening the door to a world of horror. The stream depicted a man silently traversing through a desolate forest. The eerie atmosphere was suffocating, with darkness seemingly swallowing the lone figure. To my utter shock, as the live stream continued, the man's path led him to a familiar place, my backyard. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was my house. How could this be possible? Fear gripped my heart, and I immediately dialed the emergency services, desperately hoping they could provide some answers. The police arrived swiftly, but to my dismay, they found nothing out of the ordinary in the woods. Without any concrete evidence or immediate danger, they dismissed my claims. I figured that this account would probably go live again, and when it does, I'll screen record and get some proof. It took some time, but eventually, the live stream resumed. Unfortunately for me this time, however, it did not reveal my house. Just hours of this man walking through the woods at night. Why are people even watching this? I thought to myself, the live stream that night was a bust. This man didn't do anything out of the ordinary besides, being a weirdo walking through the woods at night. I anxiously waited for the live stream to return. After 2 days, the account finally went live again, and this time, I was prepared. I started to screen record, determined to capture the proof I so desperately needed. The stream unfolded just as before. The mysterious man paced through the dark woods, his footsteps crunching unsuspecting leaves. The sound of crickets could be distinctly heard. The man emerged from the depths of the forest, his gaze fixed on my house. But this time, something was different. He started moving towards my house, step by step, drawing closer to me. The fear that had gripped me earlier escalated to sheer terror. I knew I had to take action. My fight or flight response activated, and I descended the stairs from my room, making my way to the kitchen window, never taking my eyes off the live stream. I peered into the darkness, searching for any signs of the man approaching my house. But to my horror, I saw nothing. I looked back down at my phone and then back up to the window, and back down at my phone again. The man was continuing to walk towards my house in the live stream, but I didn't see him in real time. The realization struck me like a lightning bolt. The live stream had a delay. It had to have a stream delay. I watched him approach my back door on my phone. My mind raced as I frantically looked to the left and noticed my back door was ever so slightly cracked open. Part 2. Usually, it's safe to assume that something has happened to someone when they haven't posted an update in over half a month. You would think they are dead by now. However, this time, you would be wrong. I found out I had a stalker through a TikTok live stream, and he managed to enter my house. Fortunately, I escaped through the back door. Here's what unfolded after that terrifying incident. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, my heart pounding against my chest. The realization that he was already inside hit me like a ton of bricks. He must have picked the lock. Without a second thought, I dashed towards the back door, propelled by a primal instinct to escape. Once I was outside and at a safe distance from my house, I hastily dialed the emergency hotline, recounting the chilling events and pleading for immediate help. However, the response I received was far from reassuring. The operator seemed indifferent, having been through this ordeal before. They seemed skeptical and reluctant to act solely based on a screen recording of a TikTok live, and my back door being open, their dismissive tone left me feeling helpless and abandoned when I hung up the phone. As I looked towards my house, I saw the shadow of someone walking through my kitchen towards my back door, confirming my worst fears. Realizing that I couldn't rely on the authorities, I made a split-second decision. I had to take matters into my own hands. The adrenaline coursing through my veins numbed the pain of the branches scratching at my skin as I sprinted into the darkness of the forest. Every fiber of my being focused on one thing: survival. The sound of my own labored breath filled my ears, matching the rhythm of my pounding footsteps. Branches whipped against my skin, leaving angry red marks in their wake. Fear propelled me forward, zigzagging through the maze of trees. Every rustle, every crack of a twig sent shivers down my spine, fueling me to run faster. The darkness swallowed me whole, with the moonlight only offering glimpses of the treacherous terrain ahead. But I couldn't afford to stumble or hesitate. I had to keep moving, to outrun the clutches of my relentless pursuer. As I raced deeper into the woods, the sense of isolation intensified. There was no one to hear my cries, no one to come to my aid. The forest seemed to stretch on endlessly, an unyielding labyrinth designed to ensnare its prey. Yet, I pushed myself to the limits, driven by sheer willpower and the desperate hope of eluding my stalker. The forest floor gave way to a steep incline, and my tired legs strained to maintain their pace. I stumbled, my body crashing to the ground, pain shooting through every limb. But I couldn't afford to stay down. I had to keep going. Blood trickled from my grazed knees and palms, marking my path with crimson. I fought through the pain, the fear gripping me tighter with each passing second. With every ounce of energy left in me, I surged forward, my determination overriding the fatigue that threatened to consume me. After what felt like an eternity, my lungs burning for air, I collapsed beneath a tree, believing I had finally reached a safe distance. Silence enveloped the surroundings, and I took a moment to catch my breath. My curiosity got the better of me. I peered at my phone, and the live stream showed the man emerging from my house, a full 10 minutes behind real time. The comments accompanying the live stream were filled with disturbing messages, with people urging the man to harm me, flooding the chat with knife emojis, and even sending virtual gifts encouraging him to kill me. These viewers were sick in the head, reveling in my suffering, finding entertainment in my torment. A snap of a twig shattered the silence, jolting me back to the present moment. The stalker was near. Instinctively, I rose to my feet, my gaze fixated on the approaching figure. In his hand, a phone with the flash on, capturing his every move for the live stream. Panic surged through my veins, propelling me into motion once again. But fate had other plans. As I tripped over a tree root and tumbled down a treacherous hill, my head colliding with unforgiving rocks. In that disorienting moment, I noticed my phone had been flung from my grasp, landing on the rocks and then falling into the shallow water of the brook. I struggled to focus, blinking rapidly as my vision cleared. And there he was, the stalker, looming over my phone, with the TikTok live stream still running. When he bent down to reach for my phone, I realized I had an opportunity that I probably wouldn't get again. So I stood up, my head throbbing, and picked up a sizable rock nearby. Without hesitation, I swung it with all my might, striking the stalker squarely in the back of his head. He tumbled forward, falling face first into the brook, his body motionless. My hands trembled as I dropped the blood-stained rock, my mind struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what I had just done. But I had to. It was him or me, life or death, and I chose life. To my surprise, the stalker's phone had miraculously landed on a rock and remained out of the water. It was still live on TikTok. I picked up the phone and pointed it at the motionless figure floating in the brook, exposing what I had done to the viewers. The comments section exploded with W's, devil emojis, and demands for more. An unsettling realization dawned on me. I had become the new livestream host. The viewers craved violence, thrived on fear, and I had inadvertently become their new twisted entertainer by giving that to them. They loved me, and I loved the attention. I know it's been a while since I last updated you all, but I've been adjusting to my newfound position. If you're ever scrolling through TikTok late at night and come across a live stream of a man walking through the woods, I hope you'll join me. We'll be selecting a new target very soon. Who knows, it could even be you. That's not my boyfriend. My boyfriend works late hours, and when I know he's on his way to my house, I'll sit and wait for him in the kitchen to greet him. The main door is in front of me while the back porch one is behind me. He tends to come through that one so my dog doesn't bark. He called me a few minutes ago and said he just left work and he's on his way. So I did my normal and sat at the kitchen table scrolling on my phone until I got the "I'm outside" text. After a few minutes of scrolling, I heard his voice. The only light outside of my house was the porch light, so I look out of the kitchen window and nobody's there.
Baby, come outside.
Normally his voice is reassuring and welcoming, but I had a terrible feeling and decided to call his cell phone. His phone is a track phone that he buys service for, so sometimes it simply rings twice, which is what it did. Every time I called. Eventually I gave up and stepped into the back porch to look outside. Maybe his phone died and he needed me to unlock the door for him. I could feel my heart drop when I remembered the door was unlocked. I start to text him asking him to answer his phone, but while I'm doing this the voice turns from a gentle tone to an angry one. It yelled my full name and told me to come outside. My boyfriend never calls me by my full name, and at this point I'm starting to feel scared. I looked outside and it now knows that I'm not in the kitchen and that I looked out of the back porch window. I call him again. After what felt like hours he answered in a concerned way, apologizing because his phone was on vibrate as well as it not working. "Why are you telling me to come outside?" Those were the first words I said. There was an immediate silence over the line. "What do you mean?" "I'm just now on your road." He sounded worried, but I could tell he thought I was pranking him. The voice was getting angrier by the second. It cussed at me and eventually started banging on the door. It was so loud that even my boyfriend could hear it through the phone. I heard the car speed up, then the sound of gravel from him pulling into my driveway. I finally mustered up the courage to move the curtain and see if there was really anyone there. There was nothing there, but I could see him running up the stairs to get to me. Once he got in the voice and the banging came to a complete stop. I stood shaken while he looked around my yard only to see a deer running away on its hind legs, just for the front two to hit the ground in front of it as it went into the nearby woods. We didn't sleep much that night, and eventually we plan on moving somewhere that's closer to the city as my house is out of the way from any other people. Mangled.avi. Several years ago, during the summer of 2019, I found myself home alone in the evening while the rest of my family enjoyed a cookout with our neighbors. At that time, I was somewhat of a recluse, avoiding social gatherings and mostly sticking to my room. I was in a Discord call with a few friends discussing which mods we would use for our upcoming Terraria playthrough. While my friends chatted, I silently scrolled through YouTube. Amid my recommended videos, something caught my eye unexpectedly. It was a video with 0 views titled, "Misses and Skin," or something equally strange. My curiosity got the best of me, and I clicked on it, revealing a highly pixelated video with a color scheme of gray, dark green, and yellow. Although the video was indecipherable visually, the audio featured muffled, low bitrate breathing. The video lasted around 20 seconds and left me feeling uneasy. I decided to explore the uploader's channel and check their About section, which contained a cryptic sentence mentioning dedication to someone along with a link. This link led to a download page, possibly Mega or Dropbox. I can't recall precisely. Inside the zip file were 6 or 5 other zip files, each labeled with gibberish text. My naive curiosity got the best of me, and I downloaded the sketchy file and unzipped it. As the files were extracting, my friends informed me that they were logging off since it was getting late. I said goodnight and continued with the file extraction. To my surprise, all the extracted archives were encrypted and required a key, except for one. I opened it, revealing a single file named Mangled.avi. The title immediately filled me with dread, but my morbid curiosity prevented me from stopping. Now, I will describe the video as best as I can recall it. The video quality was abysmal, showing a person holding a shaky camera in a messy, unkempt bedroom. The camera slowly panned to a door leading to what appeared to be a kitchen. In the kitchen stood a woman, her limbs grotesquely twisted and bent. Her legs bent backward, her elbows twisted around, and her neck contorted backward as she gazed up at the ceiling with her mouth open. Her hair seemed neglected, and her body bore numerous long scars. She was completely nude, and she emitted animal-like noises, as if in pain and attempting to speak but unable to. The person behind the camera spoke in an unknown language, barely audible due to the poor audio quality. After briefly watching the woman, the person closed the door, walked to a table in the room, and placed the camera facing it. The video went black. After a moment, a door could be heard opening, followed by shouting and louder noises from the woman, ending with a series of loud bangs. The video abruptly cut. After watching this video, I was terrified. It left me profoundly uncomfortable, and I immediately turned on the lights. I sat for a few minutes, trying to process what I had seen. My antivirus software started displaying numerous pop-ups about deleted Trojans, and both the folder and zip file were removed. I decided not to restore them from quarantine, already too frightened to delve deeper. I shut down my PC, left the dimly lit house, and went to my neighbor's backyard for comfort. Being around others helped ease my unease for the rest of the night. Eventually, I pushed the memory aside and went to sleep. However, during the night, I had a terrible night terror. I was in my room, stuck to my bed, unable to move, as my door slowly opened by itself. In the doorway stood the same woman from the video, staring right at me with a dead gaze, with her mouth open. I awoke in a cold sweat as the sun was rising. My mom and stepfather were getting ready for work, and I kept the lights on for comfort. I desperately wanted to share my experience with someone. I searched through my YouTube history, but I couldn't find the channel or video. When I checked my browser history, the channel had been deleted, and the download was taken down. I felt sick, feeling someone knew I had accessed it and had covered their tracks. Despite my paranoia, when I tried to confide in my mother and friends, they dismissed it as if I were just describing a horror movie or just flat out lying to them. As time passed, I gradually forgot about the experience. However, a few years later, and a few weeks ago, I had to move into my aunt and uncle's place, since money was getting tight and they were willing to support me. After settling down and making my room comfortable over a few days, I finally finished the way I wanted it to look, and I went to bed. The nightmare returned. I was alone in my room, struggling to turn on the light. I repeatedly flipped the switch to no avail. I heard that unnerving screech again, and I turned to see that same woman outside my window, staring at me with that same dead gaze. This triggered a flood of memories, and now, I can't help but feel on edge. The memory of that video haunts me, and in recent days, I've become increasingly paranoid about various things. I can't even get up to go to the kitchen for water in the dark without imagining that woman in the dark corner, watching me. I'm hoping that by posting my story here, I can at least get some of this shit out of my head again, or encounter someone else that has seen this video. Prepare yourself for a YouTube experience like no other, something that will haunt your nightmares. Welcome to the chilling and bone-chilling world of Mr. Beast's Darkest Challenge. Once upon a moonless night, in the quiet town of Oak Ridge, something sinister was brewing. The townsfolk whispered tales of a strange visitor who had come to town. His name was Mr. Beast, a renowned YouTuber known for his extravagant stunts and philanthropic deeds. However, his latest challenge would be unlike any other. Mr. Beast arrived in Oak Ridge with a sinister grin that sent shivers down the spines of those who crossed his path. He announced his latest challenge to the world, offering a grand prize of $1 million to anyone who could survive a night in the town's long-abandoned, decrepit mansion. The mansion had a chilling history. Decades ago, it was the site of unspeakable horrors, and the townspeople had always avoided it like the plague. The mere mention of the mansion sent shudders through the bravest souls, for it was said to be haunted by vengeful spirits. Undeterred by the legends, brave souls from all around flocked to Oak Ridge, lured by the promise of wealth. As the night fell, the contestants entered the mansion, their hearts pounding with fear and excitement. Mr. Beast watched from the shadows, relishing in their anxiety. The mansion was a labyrinth of darkness, its halls echoing with ghostly whispers. Contestants wandered through rooms that seemed to shift and change, trapping them in endless loops. The walls bled, and the floors oozed an eerie, black substance. One by one, the contestants faced their deepest fears. A woman was chased by grotesque, shadowy figures, and a man was confronted by the twisted reflections of his past. Each room was a new nightmare, and the contestants struggled to keep their sanity. As the night wore on, the horrors escalated. Mysterious apparitions tormented them, and the very walls seemed to close in. Desperation and terror filled the air, but Mr. Beast remained hidden, a silent observer of their suffering. In one room, Sarah, a contestant, found herself in a grotesque version of her childhood bedroom. Her childhood toys came to life, their innocent faces twisted into menacing grins. They whispered dark secrets into her ears as she cowered in fear. She barely escaped with her sanity intact. As the first rays of dawn broke, only one contestant remained. A young man named David had outlasted the others, his will to survive stronger than his fear. Mr. Beast revealed himself, applauding David's courage. He handed him a check for $1 million, but the prize came at a cost. David's once joyful eyes now held a haunted look, forever scarred by the horrors he had witnessed. He had won the challenge, but at what price? The mansion had claimed the souls of those who had entered, leaving them forever changed. Mr. Beast vanished as mysteriously as he had arrived, leaving Oak Ridge and its haunted mansion behind. The town would never be the same, haunted by the memory of that fateful night when Mr. Beast's darkest challenge had tested the limits of human endurance and the depths of human fear. And David, the sole survivor, would carry the nightmares of that night with him for the rest of his life, haunted by the horrors he had endured in pursuit of wealth.